physiotherapist, and my particular interest is in movement control and the biomechanics of movement control. And I've been working now in this area for more than 20 years. And over that period, together with colleagues, particularly bioengineer colleagues, we've been working to develop a therapy strategy for trying to help children to get control of being upright. It's this control of the, if you like, the neutral vertical posture, but upright postural control. Because if we can get that, then we find that other skills, for example, in rolling or lying or crawling or whatever, also improve. And so we have developed the Segmental Assessment of Trunk Control, or SATCo, and this is partnered with the therapy of targeted training, which is the therapy that takes the training stage by stage down through the trunk and then in those children that are able through the lower limbs, working on their postural control, and from that their function then evolves. The SATCo is a test, it's a validated test for assessing upright postural control in a child that has disability, a problem with movement control. So typically a child with cerebral palsy, it might be a child that just is slow to develop their movement skills, but it's important to understand that it tests control of the neutral vertical posture rather than control of particularly reaching outside of the base. Neutral vertical posture does have a very exact definition, and so in a young child, well, I say young up to the age of 7, the spine is actually fairly flat. And so if you look at a child side on, they don't have the very marked curves of the thoracic kyphosis and the lumbar lordosis that you get in the adult or even in the teenager. And so you're looking at minimal spinal curves in a child under the age of 7, and in a very young infant, the spine is pretty much flat. And so you want that posture so that it's absolutely upright. So the head is in midline, viewed from the side and from the front. There's no turning, so that it's completely symmetrical and in that neutral upright. The SATCo has been validated in children, but it does actually have application through into teenage, and it has been used just experimentally in a research situation for adults. It's not validated in adults, but it is a test that would have application for the older person with disability, but it would need development of suitable equipment to help give the support. The SATCo has a number of elements to it, rather than just testing the spine as one complete unit and looking at just the movement of the trunk as a whole. That really has been the way that assessment of the trunk has developed up until now. But that is actually asking someone with disability for a great deal of control. And so with the SATCo, we subdivide the spine, or the trunk, into segments. So we have the head segment, which is actually the head, and the active component is the cervical spine. Then we have upper thoracic, which is from C7 down to T3. The mid-thoracic from T4 to T7. Lower thoracic from T7 down to about T11. Upper lumbar, which is T11 down to L4. then L4 and 5 are lower lumbar. It sounds fairly complicated, but what you actually use is anatomical landmarks. So to test head control, you support the shoulders. To test mid-thoracic, you're high into the axilla, supporting. Then come down to support just at the inferior pole of the scapula, over the lower ribs. Then upper lumbar, you're supporting just under the ribs, and for lower lumbar, you're supporting at the pelvis. Then you take away all support and test full trunk control. So ideally, what you're looking for through the test is for 3 components. And again, the SATCo is unique in testing the 3 elements of, at each segment, static control, active control, and reactive control. So for static control, you're looking for a steady position, head looking forward, eyes level, and if it's the head test segment that you're testing, the shoulders will be supported so the arms can be resting down. From there downwards, you need the arms free of support so that you can be sure that you're testing trunk control and not any support that might be gained through the arms or even holding on to a toy. Then that's testing static. Active control is tested in the same way, arms free of support, by having the head turn 45 degrees at minimum to right and to left, or reaching in a young child. And reactive control is in effect a test of balance, and you give a short, brisk nudge at the manubrium sternum, acromion either side, and over C7, and that position stays constant all the way down. So it's a brief, sharp nudge, enough to just displace the child, and you're looking to see, do they come back to the neutral vertical position quickly, and if you like, by the shortest route, so that if I nudge from behind and I come forwards, do I return straight or do I wander coming back up, which then would be no control. So again, the SATCo is very distinct in its scoring. You're looking to see if the child demonstrates control or does not demonstrate control. So let's say at a particular segment, let's say that we're testing mid-thoracic segment and we're giving support just beneath the inferior pole of the scapula. And so if the child, for static control, has hands in the air, they're looking forward and they hold for 5 seconds, then that credits static control. And then you give a tick in the box for static. If they have head turn to either side and it's even, they're not dipping or swaying, that credits head control. If control is not demonstrated, so for example, a child might turn well to the one side, but dip turning to the other, that will be a no control, and you just use a minus sign for that. It's useful sometimes to write a comment about what you see as well. And so you then step down through the score sheet, each segment in turn, until you discover that the child is unable to maintain the neutral upright position at all. And then that defines your segmental loss of control. So you may find for static, active and reactive that you have a loss of control or control not demonstrated, all 3 at the same segment, or they may be spread across 1 or even more segments. So you may have loss of reactive control at upper thoracic, but you don't get loss of static control until you're down at lower thoracic or even upper lumbar. So it can be a spread. But what you're looking for, particularly from a treatment perspective, is where the highest segment of loss of control is, because that's where you'll start your therapy.